Unfortunately, for our next topic of stalemate, I ran out of all the good jokes. Now all I have left are the stale ones. Alright, so in chess, a player is stalemated when his king is not in check or under attack and he cannot make any legal moves. A stalemate is a draw. It is often used as a last-minute saving technique to avoid losing a game. But it can also happen, unfortunately, by accident, when a player is trying to checkmate his opponent. Like in this example, Black could checkmate his opponent by moving his queen to either of these squares. Unfortunately, he plays queen to f7 and accidentally stalemates his opponent. This position is a stalemate because the white king cannot move to any square without being captured. And in chess, you cannot put the king in danger. So therefore white cannot make any moves, and the game thus ends in a draw. If the king were to move here, the queen would capture it. If the king moves to either of these squares, then the queen would also capture it. Since we know what a stalemate is, we might as well begin looking at tactical ways to create them and thus save the game. As we can see here, white is in a lot of trouble, being down by 2 pawns, and is actually about to be checkmated. If it were black's turn to move, black can move this pawn down and checkmate white. So therefore white must do something very quickly, or otherwise he will lose this game. And he can create a stalemate by force with rook to d3 check. Now notice that the rook is attacking both the king and black's other rook. So, if black does not want to lose the rook and thus lose the game, he must capture the rook, and that leaves white in stalemate, because his king has no legal moves to make. It cannot put itself in danger, and anywhere that the king could potentially move to, it would be in danger. Now let's look at another example of forcing a stalemate through tactical means. As we can see here, black is in a lot of trouble. He is down by a queen and 3 pawns. But in fact, the amazing thing is that black can save this game and draw it. And he can do so by creating a stalemate. If you notice here, if it were white's turn to move, white could easily checkmate black by moving his rook down. However, in the current position, we can see that the black king cannot move to any square without being captured. Therefore, it cannot make a legal move. The only moves that black can make are with his rook. So if he could somehow get rid of his rook, then he would be able to stalemate the game and thus draw it. And that is the key. So therefore he plays rook to c1 check, and the king has nowhere to go but h2. That's the only square. And then the rook gives another check, and the king cannot move anywhere else but to take the rook. And as soon as the rook is captured, then we have a stalemate position, and black is able to save the game by drawing it. As we can see here, black is in a lot of trouble. If it were white's turn to move, he could checkmate by either playing his queen here, 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 or here. Either of those squares would be good enough for a checkmate. However, there is an amazing way that black can save this game. And in order to do it, he must keep checking the white king, because the first chance that white gets, he is going to checkmate black. So therefore we give a check. And notice that if the king were to move to the right side of the board, then we could give it a check and trade the rook for the queen, thus drawing the game. Therefore, the king does not want to move this direction at all, and must therefore stay on these two ranks. Therefore, we can keep checking the king back and forth, and it can't go anywhere. Now, if the king decides to try and zigzag back to chase the rook away, then we can simply give away the rook because our king would then be in stalemate. The king currently has no legal moves to make because anywhere that it could move, those squares are controlled by the white queen. So therefore, we can even lose our rook and draw the game. But white tries to chase the rook away anyway, and is not able to, because as soon as he captures the rook, it will be a stalemate, and the game will end in a draw. Therefore, the best that white can do is simply to move his king back and forth. And then this draws by repetition, because you're simply repeating the position and no progress is being made. And if you repeat the same position 3 times in a row, then that is also a draw. In this current position, if it were black's turn to move, he would push this pawn forward, as highlighted, and checkmate white. If we look here, the white king has no legal moves to make, because every possible square that it could move to is covered by black's pieces, or by his king. Therefore, if white could give up his rook, then he would be able to stalemate this position. So that is a pretty good hint, and I want you to solve this problem. You can go ahead and pause the video to study it on your own. Now the correct answer is to take the pawn with the rook check. Now, if the king declines to capture the rook with his pawn, and instead moves backwards, then white would be able to pretty easily win this game. His king is in front of these pawns, or close by, and with the rook and king versus 2 pawns, white will easily be able to win that. So therefore, black should capture the rook. But in doing so, is going to end up drawing white, creating a stalemate position.